Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coptic Las. It's been a while since we've posted a video, but we're finally going to continue and finish quarter 3. We already started the first 2 videos of quarter 3 a while back, where we started the quarter talking about multi-pronunciation consonants, and we've talked about beta, delta, theta, and the jinkim. And today we're going to cover the last 3 consonants in the Coptic language, and with that we'll be finished with all the Coptic alphabet. And those 3 consonants also all have multi-pronunciation. So today we're going to finally once and for all wrap up all the multi-pronunciation consonants, and the only 3 left, like I said, we have Ghamma, Ganga, and finally we have Ki. So the first half of the lecture we're going to cover the Ghamma and Ganga, and then on the second half of the lecture we're going to cover Ki, which Ki is very special case and very good segue to the rest of quarter 3, where we're going to start talking about Greek versus Coptic and why it's important to know if a Coptic word is of Greek origin or actually of Coptic origin, because that will influence the pronunciation. So I leave Ki to the end because this would be a very great segue into that part of the quarter 3 that is. To make your life easy, our keyword for this part of the lecture is followed. Whenever I talk about any rules, it's whenever the letters that we're talking about is followed by certain set of letters. So it's always followed. So the keyword here is followed. Okay? So for Ganga, for Ghamma, and for Ki, it's always followed. If it's followed by certain group of letter, it will mean something specific. And then if you remember, at the beginning of quarter 3, I told you how important it is to know your vowels, because those were very important for beta, for example, because remember beta and how the vowels, where the vowels are in position to the beta, influence how you pronounce beta, right? And now we're gonna find another reason why knowing the vowels is very important, but not only that, knowing that specific group of vowels, the hive group. That hive group is going to prove very important, because that hive group will influence how we pronounce Ghamma in certain situation and how we pronounce Ganga in certain situations. This is going to be critical that you know your hive. So if you ever wondered back when we started quarter 2 why I have drilled in your heads the idea of hive and woe, now is the time why. Knowing the hive woe altogether help you knowing all your vowels quickly, and knowing the hive group is very, very, very important, because as you see with Ghamma, we're going to eventually see that we need the hive group, and we need to know if the Ghamma is followed by the hive group, any of the hive group, it would mean a certain pronunciation, and same with Ganga too. And so this is why it's very important to know hive. So hive, 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 hive. Don't forget hive, okay? It will make your life so much easier. So like I said, the rule is always followed. So Ghamma has 3 pronunciation. Either G, that you know like go, N as in no, or غين sound في العربي زي يغني. Okay, GH. Okay, فدي الغين بالعربي. Whenever it's followed by any of those 4 hive group, any of them, you just need 1 letter after it from the hive group. If it is, then it's pronounced as a G. So let's talk about this. A good example is this word right here. So first we have a Ghamma. Once we see a Ghamma, we have to check what it's followed by. Remember, keyword is followed. So here, it's followed by one of the hive. Yes, specifically it's followed by the E, right? With A. So because it's followed with A, and A is one of the hive group, then we know that this would be a G. Also, it will be a capital G because this is proper noun. Okay? This word is proper noun, and therefore we start with capital letter. Now, A, if you remember from long time ago when we talked about vowel, it's always E. Then the Ni is always N, A is another E, then Sima is an S. Always, unless it's a Greek word, just trust me, it's Greek, and because it's the Greek, I have to check what's after the Sima. If the Sima is followed by me, then it will be a Zat. Here it's not followed by me, therefore it's an S. And then this Yota, remember Yota is a Y if it's preceded or followed by a vowel. Otherwise, if it's in between consonants, then it's just an I. So in this case, Sima is a consonant, the Sima after is a consonant, so this would be an I. And then finally Sima again is an S, because it's not followed by me, which would make it a Z. So in this case, there is no me, therefore it's an S. So you put this whole word together and you get Genisis. Genisis. So remember, Ghamma would be a G sound if it's followed by one of the hive group. In this case, we have example was followed by A, therefore Ghamma is Genesis. On that note, some people say Ghamma, some people say Ghamma. Ghamma is the correct way to pronounce it, because if you go to how it's written in Coptic, you'll see it's followed by alpha, which is an A sound. And so because alpha is not one of the hive group, we'll learn that this is a ghain pronunciation, like Ghani in Arabic. So therefore the correct pronunciation would be Ghamma. But do note, people say Ghamma and Ghamma interchangeably, and that's fine. Okay? So back to our word again. Ghamma would be a G sound if it's followed by hive. In this case, this word has A after the Ghamma, and therefore it would be Genesis. So G, not Genesis, Genesis. Okay, so check. Genesis is the first word you have to learn, and Genesis is the first book of the Bible, which is Genesis, which is in English. It's very similar to the Coptic spelling, but it's yeah, it's very much the same. There you go. So Genesis. Okay, so we say Genesis in English. In Coptic, it's Genesis. Then we have a 4 special set of letters, which if Ghamma is followed, again, remember keyword is followed, so if the Ghamma come followed by another Ghamma, by Kappa, by Xi, or K, if it's followed by any of those, then the Ghamma would make an N sound. And the very vanilla word that you always use in Coptic to remember that is Angelos. Angelos is a very vanilla word that everyone uses to demonstrate the N pronunciation. So let's start one letter at a time. Alpha, so we put down an A. Cool. Then Ghamma, you always need to check after it. So the first Ghamma has another Ghamma after it. So because the Ghamma or Ghamma has another Ghamma after it, therefore it would be an N. Because that first Ghamma is followed by a Ghamma, which is one of those 4 groups that we talked about. Okay, so it's an N. Now the next Ghamma, we have to check again. What's after the Ghamma? Remember, it's always followed, right? So in this case, Ghamma is followed by E, which is one of the hive group that we talked about earlier. Therefore, that other Ghamma would be a G sound. Okay, so Angelos is a good word to demonstrate both the N pronunciation and the G pronunciation. So let's keep going. So now we cover the second Ghamma, and now after that is E, which will make an E sound. Lolla makes an L. Omicron is always an O, and then Sima again is an S, because even though this is also a Greek word, Sima is not followed by me, therefore it's an S, not a Z. So it will still be an S. And so you put the whole word together and you get Angelos. Angelos. And Angelos, if it sounds a lot like angel in English, that's because that's exactly what it is. Angel. So Angelos is angel. So we covered so far the G pronunciation, the N pronunciation. Now, if you see a Ghamma and it's not followed by hive or any of those 4 set of letter, the Ghamma, Kappa, Xi, or Ki, then it must be a Ghain sound in Arabic, like the word Ghanni. So in all other situations, that would be the case. So here we look at this Ghamma, or Ghamma, right? After the Ghamma, there is this letter right here. Is this part of the hive group? Does it look like any of those 4 letters? Answer is no, so it cannot be a G. Now, does that Ghamma followed by any of those 4 letters? Again, no. Therefore, it cannot be a G, it cannot be an N. So we default to the else case, which is GH. Okay? And then Ni is an N. Omicron is an O. This letter, if you remember, I said BH or F. It's up to you if you want to do BH or F. As long as you think of BH as phone or F as in like father or whatever. So BH or F both good. And then Omicron is another O. And finally the Sima. This is again another Greek word, but again because the Sima is not followed by me, therefore it will be an S. And you put the whole word together and you get Gonophos. Gonophos. And Gonophos means fog or darkness. But fog is the more accurate one. So to recap quickly, Ghamma could be a G, N, or JH as in Ghanni, Ghain sound in Arabic. It's G when it's followed by any of those 4 vowels, the hive group. And in that case, it would be a G sound like the word Genesis, which is the first book of the Bible, Genesis. Then if it's followed by any of those 4 letters, right there, those 4 letters, then it would make an N sound like the word Angelos. And like I said, Angelos is a good one that demonstrates for the first Ghamma, the N pronunciation, because it's followed by another Ghamma, and then the other Ghamma is followed by A, which makes it the formal rule of a G, and therefore first Ghamma N, second Ghamma G. Okay, and then you continue the rest of the word Angelos, and finally we said if it's not followed by any of those 8 sets of letter, then it just becomes a regular default Ghain sound, like Ghanni, which would be Gonophos, and Gonophos means fog or darkness. That wraps up Ghamma. Next, we're going to talk about Ganga. And so Ganga is very similar, okay? Because here, if you see Ghamma has a G sound here, Ganga could also make a G sound, but in a different situation. Also, good thing to mention right now, Ghamma is a dead giveaway that the word is Greek. Ganga is a dead giveaway that the word is Coptic. And so if you're looking for G in a word of a Greek origin, you would use Ghamma. If you're looking for a G in a word from Coptic origin, you will use the Ganga. Therefore, there's two Gs. One is for Greek origin vocabulary, and one is for the English vocabulary. Sorry, the Coptic vocabulary, right? Greek and Coptic. And so both make a G sound in English, but in different situation. So for Ghamma, the hive group makes it, if it's followed by hive, it makes a G sound. Here, if the Ganga is followed by hive, it's actually a J sound, not a G. So note the difference. I know this will be very confusing and you may have to listen to this lecture again a couple of times to drill that in your head, but you must drill that in your head. So Ghamma is G when followed by hive, Ganga is J when followed by hive. And so let's demonstrate a good word for that. So first, Ganga here is followed by alpha. So ask ourselves, is alpha part of the hive group? No. Therefore, that first Ganga would be a G. Why a G? Because it's not followed by hive, right? So therefore it's a G. Good. Now alpha is always an A. So just put an A, and now we have another Ganga. This Ganga is followed by Iota. Iota is part of the hive group. It's this one right here. And so because Iota is part of the hive group, that other Ganga must be a J. And then finally Iota, there is no vowel before it because this is a consonant. We're only talking about consonants today. Nothing after it. There is no vowel after it. Therefore it would be an I. So you put this whole word together and you get Gaji. Gaji. And Gaji means enemy. Like your enemy. If someone is your enemy, then you say, this is my Gaji. So Gaji means enemy. So Ganga, if it's followed by hive, it would be a J sound like the end of Gaji. Or Gaji is also a good word to demonstrate the G sound because the first Ganga is followed by alpha, and when Ganga is followed by alpha, which is not part of the hive group, it's always a G. This is why I would recommend you know this word as your vanilla word for Ganga. Why? If you remember Gaji and how you write it, you will always remember the root. You need to remember the word Gaji and hive. So if you're stuck and you see a word that has Ganga on it, remember Gaji and think of Gaji when it's a G, when it's a J, and then you'll be able to pronounce any word that has Ganga and know when it's a G, when it's a J. So know your hive group and memorize this vanilla word for Ganga, and you'll be good to go, and you'll never be confused about the pronunciation for Ganga if you always use this as your base case. Cool. So that leaves one thing. Ganga, if it's not followed by any of the hive group, remember everything is followed today. So if it's not followed by any of those, then it becomes a regular G, just like we show in the first half of the word Gaji. So now let's get this word. So again, we have a Ganga. That Ganga is followed by alpha. Therefore, alpha is not part of the hive group. Therefore, it will be a G. Alpha, you'd put the A down. And then this is a Coptic letter for F. Remember, this is for usually Greek. This one is strictly Coptic. So that tells you that this word is Coptic. And again, remember, any word, as we'll learn later, any word that has Ganga on it must be Coptic, not Greek. Okay? So you put this whole word together and you get Gaf. And Gaf means cold. So when someone is cold, it's Gaf. So to recap with Ganga, Ganga could either be a J or G. It's J if it's followed by any of the hive group, like the word Gaji, which means enemy. Otherwise, it's a G, like the word Gaf, and Gaf means cold. And with that, we finish the first half of the lecture. Follow us in the second half of this lecture, where we're going to discuss the last multi-pronunciation consonants, the key, and also segue into why this is important when you talk about Greek versus Coptic words. So with that, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in a bit. Now, we're going to wrap up this lecture discussing the last letter of our Coptic language letters, and this one is key. And this one, like I told you before, it differs if how you pronounce it, if the word is of Coptic origin or if the word is of Greek origin. And so this is a good time to remind you of Sima and Taf. Remember when we were covering single pronunciation consonant, we talked about two of the single pronunciation consonant that may actually be multi-pronunciation, but in the case of Greek words. And if you remember, those were Sima and Taf. And we talked about how Sima is always an S. Always an S, unless two conditions apply. First, word is of Greek origin, and we'll know that in the next lecture, what it means for a word to be of Greek origin. And if that Sima is followed by me in the Greek origin word. So, in that case, it becomes a Z sound. So Sima, if followed by me, in a word of a Greek origin, it becomes, the sema becomes a Z sound instead of the typical S you're used to. And Taf is opposite, right? Taf is always a T, but then it becomes a D when it's preceded by Ni, by a different letter. So Taf, if the word A is of Greek origin, second, the Taf is preceded by Ni, then it will be a D sound instead of the regular T. That's always the case, and that's what we're used to. So the third letter, the only other letter in the Coptic language that differ between Greek and Coptic pronunciation, depending on the origin of the word, is ki. So now comes the $1 million question. When is ki pronounced as K, SH, or KH as in khair, بالعربي? When is this the case? And what happens when it's of Coptic or of Greek origin? Now we're going to discuss this. So, K is very easy. If a word is of a Coptic origin, it's always a K. No difference than Sema, that's always an S, or Taf, that's always a T. Okay, so in Coptic, it becomes very easy. Coptic, whenever you see a Sema, it's an S. Whenever you see a Taf, it's a T. Whenever you see a Ki, it's a K. Okay? So in Coptic, it's always a K. And the example word is this one right here. So first we have the infamous Jenkim that we talked about before, last lecture, right? And remember, Jenkim has two rules. If the Jenkim is on top of a consonant or on top of a vowel, it differs, right? So, first thing, you have to know your vowels. Hive, wo. So, you look at these letters that we're learning, ki. Well, I'm telling you right now that ki is a consonant, but let's say you forgot that it's a consonant. Does ki appear in this group or this group? Either the hive or wo? The answer, of course, is no, and therefore, that's a consonant letter, and because it's a consonant letter and has a Jenkim on top of it, the Jenkim becomes an E. So start with an E, then this is a Coptic word. Now you have to trust me on it that it's a Coptic word until we cover the lecture on Greek versus Coptic. For now, I will tell you if the word is Coptic or Greek. Even in your homework or anything, I will always tell you if the word is Coptic or Greek until next lecture. And now you have to figure it out on your own. Unless there's some exceptions that I would still tell you about. But we're gonna deal with that when we get there. For now, just know that this is a Coptic word, and therefore this ki would be a K sound. Okay, so we got the Jenkim as an E, we got the Ki as a K sound. Now Lolla, you know that as an L, Omicron is always an O, and Mi is always an M. You put the whole word together and you get Eklom. Eklom. And Eklom means crown. So Eklom. Eklom, crown. So Ki in Coptic is always a K sound, like the word Eklom, and Eklom means crown. Now if the word is of Greek origin, remember the hives that we talked about last time in the beginning of this lecture with Ghamma and Ganga? Now hive comes again. You always look at the hive group, and if you see the hive followed, again the keyword is followed, so just like the Ghamma and Ganga, it's same idea. If the word is of a Greek origin, you have to look for the hive after it. So if Ki is followed by any of the hive group, it becomes an SH. Otherwise, it's in Greek, in words of Greek origin, it's always KH as in khair. بالعربي. Okay, so khe sound. Cool. So what's a good example word for the hive one? So ki here, it's first letter. After it is iota. Is iota part of the hive group? Yes, sure, it's right there. Right? So therefore, this would be an SH. Iota, you always have to check. Is it preceded or followed by a vowel? And if it's preceded or followed by a vowel, it becomes a Y. Otherwise, it's an I. So here, this iota is preceded by a consonant, because we talked about this ki as a consonant, and it also doesn't show up here. So you would think it's an I, but don't rush it. You have to look after too. After it is omega, and omega is one of the vowels, right there. You all can see it. Right there is the omega. So therefore, because it's followed by a vowel, that iota would be a Y. Not an I, a Y. And then omega, if you remember from the vowel discussion, it's AU sound. And finally, Ni is always an N. You put the whole word together and you get Shayon. Shayon. And Shayon means ice. I-C-E, ice. So, Ki in words of Greek origin, if it's followed by hive, it makes an SH sound like the word shake. And the good example word is shayon, and shayon means ice. Otherwise, if the word is of Greek origin and the ki is not followed by hive, any of the hive group, then it becomes a kha sound as in khair. So here, ki is followed by omicron. Is omicron part of the hive group? No. Therefore, this ki would be a kha sound, or kh in English as in khair. And then omicron is just an O, always an O. Ru is always an R. Omicron is always an O, and Sima, because the word is of Greek origin, we have to check, is it followed by me? In this case, it's not followed by me, therefore it's an S. You put the whole word together and you get Choros. And Choros means row. So Choros, row. So to recap, K could be one of three pronunciation. Either K, SH as in shake, or KH أو الخاء بالعربي زي كلمة خير. And so in Coptic words, it's always a K. Example word is iklom, and iklom means crown. For Greek words, you have to check for the hive. If the key is followed by any of the hive group, makes an SH sound, that's shake. An example word is shayon. Shayon means ice. And finally, if it's a Greek origin word and it does not, and the key is not followed by any of the letters of the hive group, it must be a kha sound as in khair. And the example word is choros, and choros means row. With that, I am done. Thank you for listening.